Good evening, horror lovers. Welcome back to Colectivo Paranoia. I am your host, Lord Amos, and if you are here, it is because you want to get lost within our nightmares. Today I bring to you a story of my own, in which an unfortunate individual discovers the hostile side of prehipanic magic, which he will find surrounding the place where he lives. Music credits can be found on the video's description. Mictlan's Forest. It was late at night, maybe too late to be awake, but that is precisely the problem to begin with. As I was finding myself completely rested. Okay, well, that could not be a problem if I was alone, but such is not the case. What waked me up was the scratching on the door of the living room from the paws of my furry four-legged friend. My dog is a cream-colored Great Pyrenees, a big dog, fat and tough-looking, but really noble in character. I guess pets do sometimes resemble their owners, at least with their personalities. He is a gentle and calm dog, but playful and relatively social. Though he isn't all the times like that, as he is usually calmer and quiet, though right now he was howling on a painful way. It is something normal, for I fell asleep, and the time for him to be woke and done for his bathroom necessities has passed for a lot of hours. But could you honestly blame me for being today a bad parent to my doggy son? Today had been a potentially great day, but in the end it was just goddamn awful. I did not think it would be, for today I was supposed to free myself from covering the position of a co-worker of mine who had fell sick about a week ago, and, as of late, I was always juggling my responsibilities with hers. Apparently my boss, not content at all about paying me overtime, who has always hated my guts, mostly for being the kind of person who knows to differentiate when someone is trying to blame you for their shortcomings, and not actually letting that happen with me. She has found that tiny loophole of human error which is bound to happen to a burnt-out worker, and has fired me. It was today because my co-worker had finally returned, which brings to my mind how odd it was to be the last person to know I was going to get fired, as even she looked at me with pity when I was called into my boss' office for my expedite execution. I sat up on the couch in which I had fallen asleep, and in the process I tumbled down a bottle of tequila from which I was drinking before, spilling the remaining 2 or 3 shots in the bottle to the already filthy with potato chips floor. I started to put on the boots which were on the floor by my side while, still a bit drowsy, I continued to awake due to the continuous barking and howling of my dog. "I'm going, Pepe!" I yelled at him as I felt discomfort from the moist socks inside my boots because of the tequila I spilled. As I opened the door and got out of the living room, I was received by the big, fat and gentle Butch, who stood in his rear legs to greet me, desperate, unhappy. He was scratching me with his paws over my t-shirt. I felt guilty. He was hurting me a bit with his claws, but he was the only one who was happy to see me this whole shitty day. Yeah, about that. Once I was going out from the office with a box holding whichever personal effects I kept around my desk, I thought it was a good idea to turn around the way the day had been by visiting my girlfriend at her place. It is a hideous cliché, I know, but it was what it was. And even though I was planning to surprise her, dropping by with a bottle of tequila and whatever was needed to prepare some margaritas, I was the one surprised when I entered her apartment to see her fucking with that person which she has always claimed was nothing but a good friend. An uncomfortable one who apparently succeeded becoming something more like a fuck buddy now, if you ask me. Needless to say that I broke up with her at that instant by telling her how much of a bitch she was and leaving. Back at my home, I found myself with a bottle of tequila, a box full of shit, a really thin compensation check, and a wish for the day to be over, as it did soon enough. I was finishing the bottle quite quickly by myself, while listening to a combination of YouTube horror stories and a copy of a music mix I once compiled for my now ex-girlfriend, which tasted much more bitter than what I could have wished. Several hours later, feeling even more like shit, as now I was hungover as hell, I felt a deep and hollow sensation of longing as I was taking Pepe's leash. He was wagging his tail frantically as he was doing some little dancing jumps with his front legs, while he was moaning for me to hurry up and take him for his bathroom walk. It is 3:30 at night, and the only meaningful thing which was giving some sense to the day was the furry friend who was painfully holding his pee inside his bladder, while dragging me down as he was running full speed down the stairs of the building in which I lived, in order to storm out and go directly to the same old garbage can which was in the corner of the street where he would usually be. We continued walking, crossing to the other side of the street, at the corner where a pathway started, which goes along the back wall of an old church, which was rumored to be used once as a place to perform gunfire executions during the Mexican Revolution period. The wall was at the right side of the path, and on the left a fence separated the road from a railroad, which practically drew the limits of what was the little city in which I live. After the railroad, a dense forest surrounded the city, which gave it a fairy tale vibe to the building in which I lived. The cool air was well combined with the snow, which was slowly falling over everything. I was freezing under the thin jacket I took just before I was dragged away from my department by the hulk of a dog, which is Pepe. And, even though Pepe had already tended to his necessities, I decided it was a good idea to reward the dog for not flooding the department with pee with a little walk in the forest under the moonlight. It has to serve a purpose to live in such a beautiful and peaceful location, opposite to most big cities in Mexico, where there seems to be a war going on between the people and the organized crime, as most of the free media said. As we were walking through the path, Pepe looked euphoric as he was walking and running aside the wall. The knowledge of the dark past behind this wall usually gave me an uneasy feeling, as I imagined people being executed along it. Still today, the feeling was somewhat different, as my dog was joyfully running alongside, and the cool air was refreshing my lungs in spite of feeling a bit painful. The night had a magical sensation to it, and being a person who deliberately had searched for a house neighboring a forest in order to feel more in touch with nature, I decided to go left on an intersection by the end of the wall. The fence is interrupted at this point, and there is a small dirt road which ventures into the forest. I checked my cell phone for a brief and stupid moment, wishing to see the calls and messages from my now ex-girlfriend. Nevertheless, as I remembered how things had happened earlier with his good friend, I decided to erase the message on the screen which said 15 missed calls and 23 messages, and instead turned on the flashlight of my cell phone with the help of an app to use it as a lamp. Come, Pepe, let's walk for a while and then head back home. There should be plenty of trees for us to pee on around, I said, using the plural as I was feeling the natural course of action from my bladder when I wake up from long sleeps. If well, it could be said that I was feeling somewhat adventurous as to turn around an otherwise shitty day and at least enjoy it a little while with who deserved my attention. I wasn't intending to do that on a suicidal way, so I planned to just walk on a straight line after the railroad while programming the phone temperature for 5 minutes, after which we would return the way we were going. We had walked for a couple of minutes when I decided to relieve my bladder of a tree, as I had held that wake-up urge for quite a while now, and I was starting to feel that kind of urge which hurts a bit to maintain. The cold weather and the snow weren't helping either. I was finishing my business as fast as I could in order to avoid the already overwhelming night's cold, and I was just about to button up my jeans when Pepe pulled me with all his strength out of the dirt road and into the forest, doing so with a desperation which was unlike him. As he did this, I slipped, falling towards where Pepe was pulling me, landing with my left knee, feeling at the same time a sudden sharp pain on my leg, as I was screaming with anger the name of my dog, mainly to try to stop him from pulling me. But he ignored my screams and continued pulling me as my jeans and knees were being scratched by the ground and snow below. As this was happening, the pain was transforming into a sensation of heat, which ironically traveled down my leg. I regained my strength to stand up as I held myself with both hands, as I tried at the same time to pull the leash of my dog to control him. "What the fuck is wrong with you, you idiot dog?" I screamed at him, trying to scold him. I checked my knee to see what the warm sensation was, and saw blood flowing down my leg, out from an ugly scratch on my left knee. I finally stood up, giving special attention to have my feet placed on the safest spots possible to avoid slipping again, or at least not as easily. I was still holding tight the leash of my furry friend, who was still pulling from it, with the fur on his back bristled with anger as he was growling towards the trees at the left of us. I don't know why, but I decided to carefully follow my dog, walking slowly towards where he was growling. "Easy, friend, nothing's wrong. We are completely alone, unless you are barking at some squirrels or crow," I said to Pepe in some way with the intention to calm myself instead of my dog, that even though he is extremely intelligent, and sometimes seems to actually understand when I am talking to him, I'm sure that he won't be paying attention to me just now, as much as I know he won't stop himself to take a minute to chat with me. Nevertheless, I couldn't stop feeling uneasy due to Pepe's behavior, as he is usually a really calm dog, as long as he does not harbor any urge to be. From the deep darkness, I start to see a big humanoid shape, taller and wider than me, slowly lurking forward. I am not really tall. It actually is easy for just about anyone to be taller than me, but this figure, which I was already distinguishing to its details, had a height which seemed to be over 8 feet, and as it was getting closer he started to seem much less of a shade and started giving away the impression of being a person. At this point Pepe cowered backwards to my side. For a brief moment I remained still, petrified from a supernatural fear, just like my dog, but just as well I considered the pragmatic approach, for facing a stranger in the darkness at such a late hour is usually a natural danger for itself, as the intentions of the strangers that wander alone under the cover of the night may hide a way to harm people, as it usually is the case in other parts of this country. I dared to speak to this person, trying to avoid the danger itself. "Look, mister, I really do not have money to spare, nor do I have much which I can call possessions, but I can give you my cell phone. It is worth a pretty penny and it's in good condition." I was about to give away my cell phone when this person got even closer, and as he was slowly walking to me, he started hunching to a point to which he was starting to walk with his hands and feet as if he were some kind of overgrown dog. With each step he was becoming more visible due to the moonlight. As he was just about 18 feet away, I saw he was completely naked, and unsettling as this was, I could not help to notice that he was changing in a grotesque way as his body started to get covered with hair and his face started to get larger and fiercer with each step. His eyes glowed in a yellow color with a gaze which was filled with malice, and it seemed as if he was laughing, but the sound quickly changed to that of growls. Pepe did not give any time for my brain to assimilate what was in front of us. He was crying out of fear, He started running with all his might, backed away from where we came, pulling me easily. As he was dragging me with his leash, I started running along with him, to which I needed no motivation other than the fear which was pulsing through my veins. The adrenaline, which was coursing full speed through my blood, caused me to see everything as if it had been recorded on a slow-motion camera, and still I was hearing how that creature was chasing after us. For some reason, as we were fleeing, the road we had already walked seemed to stretch preternaturally, though thinking about it, it could have been fear itself making me think that way falsely, as I was feeling my heart pumping like if it were a tribal war drum. I could have sworn I was about to trip at any moment of this chase, and I knew that if that happened, my dog and I would be as good as dead. As we were getting closer to the railroad, I was feeling how my lungs hurt, as if they were being punctured by 1,000 needles, due to the combination of the freezing weather and my lack of proper physical condition, which was as good as that of the average office worker. Nevertheless, I was feeling tears of joy roll with their heat down my cheeks at the moment in which the lights of the street lamp showered our panic-struck faces. I wanted to stop for a moment and regain my breath, but Pepe, who was still shaken, was pulling me to continue to run away. As we continued to run desperately, without being able to shake away the sensation of being chased, I looked back, but saw no one, not a person, nor an animal, reason for which I slowed my pace and tried to make Pepe slow his pace as well. I must have imagined all this. It is not possible for something like this to happen, I thought out loud. Pepe slowed down a bit, but he did not stop being scared, as he was turning back to the railroad with fear in his eyes. And as he did this, once again, he started to run, dragging me crazily down the road by the wall, as he was barking to the fence at the railroad. As this happened, I saw the bushes by the fence being moved as if a large animal were prowling beside them. We ran horrified, with renewed strength to our house. As we entered the building, I climbed the stairs 2 steps at a time in order to keep up with Pepe. Once inside my department, I let myself fall over my bed, letting Pepe climb beside me and hugging him as if he were an oversized teddy bear. Few minutes had passed and we were regaining our composure when Pepe started to crawl once again, this time to my room's window. I stood up and cautiously walked to the window, not before reaching into my closet to pick up a baseball bat. As I pulled away the curtain from my window, I did not see anything strange climbing to my window or below it down the street. Still, I only checked without opening it, out of fear. I walked away a couple of steps, and Pepe was still crawling to the window. When I walked away, I finally saw straight in front of me, to the branches of the tree which was directly in front of my window. There was an owl standing in one of the branches. It was huge, and it was looking at me with big, fierce yellow eyes. I closed fearful the curtain. There had never been owls on that tree before. A moment after closing the curtains, I heard it, with a guttural voice, almost demoniacal, but really clear. I heard some words which were left engraved in my brain, as if they had been tattooed with fire. Zin Chan. I returned to the living room sofa to get as far as I could from the creature, from which I did not know anything else in the rest of the night. The next morning, after remaining awake the whole night, drowsing off but never quite asleep, holding with one hand the baseball bat and with the other hugging my dog, I dared to look through my cell phone for the meaning of the words. After a while searching for the words and how I understood them, I found out it was Nahuatl, the tongue used by Aztecs and other prehipanic cultures for sacred forest, my home. I suddenly understood the warning. It is true that the place where I live is far away from the dangers of the big cities in this country, but the woods and rainforests that remain have their own life and dangers which are overlooked by many. The forest that surrounds my house is, on its own, home to many things which remain undiscovered, only partially explained through myths and legends of cultures long gone. I remembered hearing legends of creatures called Navals, ancient warlocks with primitive souls known to be shapeshifters in the service of Mictlan the god of the dead for many prehispanic cultures, and they were, according to this legend, as dangerous, if not even more so, than the werewolves of gore movies. Damn this fucking nightmare, I told myself as I embraced Pepe, and was about to turn off my cell phone, but something caught my attention. In the superior part of the screen was the message icon. I thought I had erased all the messages from my ex-girlfriend, but now that I was safe and sound, I considered reading them, as my breakup seemed to be long gone, along with the awful hangover, and what I wanted to believe that had been a nightmare. I proceeded to read the message. Message 1 of 2, December the 13th, 2017, 4:05 a.m. Manuel, I regret what happened and I have tried to call you all night. I have been stupid and want to fix things up with you. You discovered me in a shameful moment I shared with someone special without thinking about you. It was not something that I didn't wish to happen, to be honest. But I am not proud, and I wish for us to talk about the terms of our relationship. For starters, I do not want to lose you, and it does not matter how late it is either. I want to be with you, Tatiana. Message 2 out of 2, December the 13th. Message 2 out of 2, December the 13th, 2017, 4:22 a.m. Manuel, please open the door. I am at your place, ringing the bell like crazy. I am scared. There was this shady beggar with a horrible expression on the corner of your street. He was glaring at me hideously as I entered your building. Please, I am scared. My heart suddenly skipped a bit as I realized she had been at my door while I was unconsciously asleep. Trying to wash away fear with a balm of dreamless sleep. And somehow I knew that what had happened had not been a dream. She had been outside my apartment, and that creature had been with her. As I opened the entrance door, my expectations transformed into horror as I found over the welcome mat the ripped off head of Tatiana, only with few strands of hair left. Her face was disfigured by marks of scratches by what seemed to be claws, and over her cheekbones only a couple of black blood oozing holes were left where her eyes had been. My profound sadness was somewhat overshadowed by the horror as I found myself confused. The horror I was feeling was overwhelming, but the worst part of it was that I didn't know if I was feeling it out of fear towards the beast which lurks out there in the woods, or by the sensation of morbid satisfaction I was feeling from seeing my ex-girlfriend's dead expression. A dish will serve to cure his hangover, though I do not think Manuel could love to taste the innards of his ex-girlfriend. Such bad blood could surely give him a stomachache. If you like the story, give us a like, subscribe and share. Look for us in Twitter, Facebook and Amino. We are Colectivo Paranoia. In the end, we woke up to realize we were never there.